clarity as to what's going on here. Gideon is the son of the house of Israel. Nothing very spectacular about Gideon. Gideon is just a regular guy, another Israelite. At this point in the history of Israel, Israel has gone through some tremendous things. We know what we discussed in our last Bible study about Joshua and all of the activities Joshua experienced as leading the people. Joshua has transitioned out at this point. He's no longer alive. And from the time that Joshua transitions out, leadership is stalled. There is no one in replacement of Joshua. And what happens is Israel would be led by judges in the absence of a specific leader. So what would happen would be that there would be judges put up in districts that would manage the affairs of the people on a local level. And what we find is that monumental judges would come forth out of this house. It would be the judge of Deborah. Deborah would be a judge, and she would be the first woman judge elected that would be Bible worthy of being noted. And she would do tremendous things. She would lead the people in a tremendous way to victory. It would be under Deborah's leadership that Israel would reactivate their motivation, their self-confidence. It would be through Deborah's leadership and her ability to be as a vessel of God, a vessel in which God could convey to her what God would like to do to help the people. And then Deborah would convey these truths to the men of the house. But at the time of Deborah's reign or her presence, the men of the house weren't totally on board. They weren't as capable in their own minds as maybe Deborah was. What we see here is a gap between the time of Caleb and Joshua, and then Joshua taking leadership of the house, and then Joshua transitioning out and making it very clear, where Joshua stood. Either you are with this or you're not. Either you're going to honor the God of Israel and stand in God's law and God's commandments, or you're going to go ahead and do what you were doing before the flood. All this riffraff, all this back and forth about who's God and what God are we going to serve. Let's put an end to this now. As for me and my house, this is what we're doing. And if you're rolling with me, you're rolling with me on this accord. And that's that. I don't want to have an argument with you or a debate with you or a conversation with you about anything other than that. And then those that are on board with Joshua move with Joshua in this mindset. Then Joshua transitions in Deborah. And under Deborah's leadership, she leads the house to success with the help of another woman who was not an Israelite, but a woman still, Jael. It will be Deborah and Jael that would solidify the dominance of this house again. They would put the house on the map. They would allow the house and its name to be reverberated amongst the nations. Everybody's talking about Israel. After what Deborah and Jael did, and Barak. Barak did play a role in it as well. But mostly it was Deborah, under the leadership of Deborah, the woman of the palm. She was from the city of palms. Her presence was synonymous with palm trees. You could always find her sitting up under a palm tree. Wherever she resided, it was near a palm tree. Deborah and Jael would put the house back on the map. Through Deborah and Jael, the house would be put back on the map. And all the nations would be taking note of what is going on amongst these people. And in their celebration, they get lost again. They celebrate the high of conquering one of their most formidable opponents, and they began to step outside of the alignment of God. They began to betray their relationship with God, the God that led them to their victories. They began to transgress and take on aspects of the world because they feel as if now they're back in this monumental place and they don't need God as much anymore. You know how we are. We'll pray for something and we'll want it so badly, and in our distress state, we'll be aligned so closely to the will of God that when we get it, we're so happy that we got it. And the longer we have it, the longer, most of the time, the height of that elongated period, we're now starting to teeter back to our old ways. We're starting to transgress the commandments of God. We're no longer as aligned as we were. And this is what will happen to the children. It's as if they have a problem with staying dedicated even in the good times. They're okay when it's bad and they have enemies at every turn. They can stay aligned to God. But it is in the good times, the abundant periods, when they see themselves succeeding, that they have a hard time staying in alignment. And this is where Gideon comes in. It says here in the